Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. This video is just a quick informational piece regarding medical examinations and how they pertain to U.S. family visas from the Kingdom of Thailand. To be clear, we're talking specifically with respect to marriage visas, fiancé visas, sort of specifically. In a broader sense, this piece may actually pertain to virtually any type of non-immigrant visa that has sort of dual intent, which you can maintain both the intent to return to Thailand or remain in the United States, or immigrant visas of any sort, as a medical examination is oftentimes the routine, one of the routine requirements of any immigrant visa to the United States. The medical exam, it's a routine part of consular processing, which is one of the final phases of the U.S. immigration process. The initial phases involve Department of Homeland Security. Next usually comes either the National Visa Center or simple processing with the United States Embassy here in Bangkok directly. One of the things that they're going to ask for is a medical exam. In most cases, they're only going to accept a medical exam from a hospital which has a certified civil surgeon pursuant to the guidelines and mandates set forth by the embassy itself. So there are only certain hospitals which have a civil surgeon on staff who is qualified to provide medical examinations for U.S. immigration purposes. So one needs to ascertain sort of where they sort of stand with respect to where they're going to need to go in order to obtain a medical examination that's going to be qualified for purposes of immigration. Something to keep in mind, or something just of note here recently, the medical examination process has undergone some fairly significant changes just since I started practicing a little less than a decade ago, at least specifically in the U.S. immigration field. And those changes pertain to the types of vaccines that are required when going into the United States. There was a time when vaccinations of various sorts were required to get into the U.S. that are now no longer required. There were also various guidelines with respect to diseases that one may have with respect to being eligible to enter the United States. So at one time there were various diseases that were on the list of things that could keep one, or things that could find one ineligible for entry in the United States. Some of those diseases have been struck off the list. As a practical matter, though, here recently, one of the things I've noticed is that overall the medical examination process is taking a longer amount of time. There was one point, actually for most of the time that I've dealt with these matters, where medical examinations would take about a day, sometimes maybe 2 days, depending on sort of a unique case. Very rarely, about once, maybe twice a year, I would see someone who had had a tuberculosis infection in the past, and in those circumstances, a far longer test is required to ascertain whether or not that person is, in fact, any longer infectious with tuberculosis. And that test can take a little bit, quite a while longer, frankly, than the overall test. But for the most part, routine cases, a medical examination, could conceivably take maybe only 1 day. That is no longer the case. These days, medical examinations, I'm usually telling people to expect about 7 to 10 days for the relevant civil surgeons to fully test an individual seeking admission to the United States. And in those circumstances, it should be noted that things have been, they've changed some of the criteria. Most notably, it seems to be that they're testing for antibiotic-resistant gonorrhea, which previously was not part of the testing criteria. I'm assuming that that's based on probably advice or information from probably some, and again, I'm speculating here, so to be clear, this is speculation, but I suspect that probably some sort of advice from, say, the CDC may have said, look, it might not be a bad idea to go ahead and test for that kind of an infection. And it appears that the practical impact of that kind of testing is that the overall process is taking longer. The only point to take away from this video is that in the past it was quite frequent and quite common to see a medical exam issued in about 24 hours. These days that is not the case. it's been our experience that here recently, at least in the past about 3 or 4, maybe even 6 months now, our personnel, it's taken, our personnel have been seeing that it's been taking, 7 to 10 days to get this process completed. To be clear, what our firm does is we usually, in fact, not usually, in every case, we assist the applicant by taking that individual to the hospital with a qualified civil surgeon, assisting them in undertaking the procedures. Obviously, an attorney's not going to go in with the doctor for the actual examination, but simply having someone there to sort of assist with the overall procedures, who understands sort of the protocol for getting this stuff done. That's one service we provide here. But to be clear, it should be noted that yes, in the past, and if you're reading information on the internet, yes, in the past it would take only a day to get a medical exam. These days, that's not the case. It's taking a more significant amount of time. So it should be noted that and expected that obtaining a medical examination is not going to just be a one-day sort of occurrence. It's going to take more time than it used to in the past.